Then it's Cox and Chris Lea about to dig in the crates. So turn it up, cause it's time for the culture state. Yeah, we do it for the culture, home of the greats. In the Carolina hood from the culture state. Chris Lea and Dennis Cox about to dig in the crates. So turn it up, cause it's time for the culture state. It's a Carolina state of mind.
Welcome to Culture State. Dennis, life comes full circle. When I was 5 years old, I got really mad at this one particular professional wrestler. And then once again, when I was 11 years old, he made me mad once again, with the Montreal Screwjob. First it was, turning on Marty Jannetty. Then it was the Montreal Screwjob over Bret Hart, who is one of my favorite wrestlers ever. And I legit did not like this guy until I became a professional wrestler. And then I started watching his work, and I was like, oh, wow, he does some really cool stuff. The way he got the crowd to pop with that's pretty cool. I might have to use some of this. And we got a chance to talk to that guy, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
That's right.
That's who we're going to hear from in this episode today.
Yeah, it was a fun interview, which, by the way, if you want to make sure you don't miss interviews like that, make sure you elbow drop this like and subscribe button right here on YouTube. That way you don't miss anything here at Culture State. But the Heartbreak Kid himself, Shawn Michaels, you and I had a chance to talk to him, not only a little bit about his past, but about what he's doing right now with WWE and its developmental brand NXT.
Let's talk about something else really quick before we get into this HBK interview, though. Addition by subtraction. There are some folks out there that feel as if the Carolina Hurricanes have had some addition by subtraction by Sebastian Aho missing a few games. I haven't seen this get a lot of traction, but there's a few people out there talking about this. And during a time where Sebastian Aho was out, the Carolina Hurricanes had a 5-game stretch. Now, as we're recording this, the Canes are going to play on a night that we're recording this, so this may be outdated by the time you guys see this. Yeah. But there was a 5-game stretch where they won without Sebastian Aho. Dennis Jamel Cox, what is your take on that?
Okay. Do you remember a guy named Kyle Allen?
I do remember a guy named Kyle Allen.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that guy?
Exactly. There was a stretch of about 5 games where the Carolina Panthers, without Cam Newton,
3 games.
Sorry, 3 games. It was several games where Kyle Allen
2.5
started, took over. The Panthers are winning without Cam Newton as their starting quarterback right now. Well, what's maybe Kyle Allen's the guy? Maybe Kyle Allen's better. But no, you're idiots. Stop. Bunch of stooges out there. Gosh, this is where we've devolved to in sports media, where we get people saying idiot things like this. Are you going to sit there and tell me that you're not going to have one of the top 10 centers in the entire NHL in your line? Oh, they're winning without him. They're winning without him. You're completely dismissing the fact that Pyotr Korchekov had 2 shutouts during that 5-game stretch. 2 shutouts during that stretch. Go ahead, Coochie. Yeah, exactly. And one of those came in Detroit. So Coochie didn't let anything in the Big D. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Coochie
all right?
was playing
so
tight.
You are taking it away. You are taking away the good work of what everyone else is doing. But here's the thing. You're not giving credit to what, A, the other guys on the ice are doing. And second of all, what Don Waddell and Rob Brindamore put together with their roster so they can withstand injuries like that. Because they said, look, those injuries are going to happen during the course of the season. They've been playing without Max Pacioretty all season. Andre Kasha, who they brought in free agency, played in 1 game, hasn't played since due to concussion. Those are 3 guys, Pacioretty, Kasha, and Aho. Those are 3 regulars in your lineup that you're playing without. Are you going to sit there and say, well, what's the point of bringing Max Pacioretty in? And well, the Canes are doing so well this season without him. Well, they're doing so great without Andre Kasha. Might as well just get rid of those guys. Might just don't bring him back in the lineup. Why aren't we saying it about them either? Gosh, we're so stupid as sports media. I swear, just to get a damn reaction, this is what we've devolved to. We've fallen into the Kyle Allen trap. Or they look, the Dallas Cowboys are winning with Cooper Rush, blah, blah, blah. He threw 25 passes over a 2-game stretch because they ran the ball. You're taking away the fact that things are being done differently without this person. And it's okay. It's okay. God, people are idiots.
I'm just letting you cook right now. Right now.
This is all right. So it's not just a frustration of like the people's thoughts on Aho. It's a couple people that are saying this, but This drives me nuts in sports media that we've devolved into, I call quarterback syndrome, is because we've assigned wins and losses to a star player, or we think because a star player's out and a team's successful that, oh, well, clearly they're better without this person or they don't need them. That's not true. It's just not true. We have just devolved, and we are so afraid of having a nuanced conversation. So, yeah, you can sit there and say, well, the Canes are 5-0 without Sebastian Aho. Okay, well, why? Why are they 5-0? Oh, because Pyotr Kochetkov went over 150 minutes without giving up a goal because of this style of goaltending. Plus, as well, there's a couple games where they only allowed, as a team, like one of the games, they only allowed 17 shots on goal during one of those shutouts. So that is a team game because that's the style of play that the Carolina Hurricanes have. You can sit there and tell me that you're not going to add Sebastian Aho back into your lineup. The team was winning games a bunch when Teuvo Teravainen missed an even longer stretch. There's a stretch in recent seasons where Jordan Staal missed an extended period of time. There's times in the playoffs recently where Jacob Slavin wasn't in and the Carolina Hurricanes still won. So you're going to sit there and tell me, like, I mean, come on, like, quit being stupid, people. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm just letting you cook. You sizzling it right now. You sizzling it right now.
That better be a cast iron skillet. It's all
it's cast iron for sure, and it's vegan inside of it too. While Dennis is cooking and while he's going to cool off a little bit, we're going to serve this plate of hot HBK, the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, right here on Culture State. You get to hear the interview right now. All right, Dennis, the wrestling tradition is going to continue in North Carolina. Yep. A lot of great stuff happening, including NXT having a premium live event coming to Charlotte February 4th, Vengeance, NXT. And, of course, when the pandemic happened, everything kind of went back to Orlando, stayed there. But now they're going to get back on the road with the premium live event and it's happening in our state. Joining us right now, the Vice President of Creative for NXT. And you may have known him from his stuff in the ring. I mean,
I've heard his name.
He's done a few things.
I've heard his name.
He's done a few things. Shawn Michaels, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so, Shawn, a lot of people might not know what NXT is. A lot of people may be familiar with WWE in terms of Raw and SmackDown. But what is NXT and why is it vital to the health long-term for WWE?
Sure. Well, look, NXT is what we call our developmental program. It is, I would say, the WWE's version of college football. We obviously we recruit now all over the world with different athletes, obviously, and also other athletes in the wrestling business from an independent standpoint. But we bring them into Orlando, try to train them up, give them experience in the ring, obviously experience on television. It is almost like AAA baseball, or like I said, our college version of the WWE, and it's trying to. And the reason it's vital, obviously, is because we're trying to provide the superstars for tomorrow. Again, this is where, they start to, grow, get their feet wet in this business, start understanding what it is we do, traveling in the ring, obviously live television. And on February 4th, a particularly huge event for all of them here, and that's Vengeance Day that we're having there in Charlotte, which everybody here is obviously very excited about. But it is the WWE's training version, but it's, probably, like I said, like college football in the aspect that anything can happen, still exciting. And I got to be honest, I prefer it over the pros, if you will.
Okay. Well, sounds good.
We're a big college sports area, so we like hearing that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I want to ask you about this. So you guys are coming to North Carolina, which, of course, you being a student of the game, you've probably wrestled in North Carolina a bunch of times, and then there's a lot of wrestling history in the state of North Carolina, Charlotte specifically, where you guys will be at. What do you think it'll mean for those guys, especially for the ones that may have joined within the last few years and who haven't had a chance to really perform outside of Florida, to be in such a rich a town that's so rich in wrestling history and how they can kind of create their own memories there in a place like Charlotte?
Well, look, as you said, everyone's already excited, and they're already, again, the anxiety and again, the pressure, all of it is already starting to mount after, obviously, we made this announcement. Everybody's very excited about it because, as you say, we have been here in Florida. We have gone outside the state of Florida one time for WrestleMania last year. And again, this is our first premium live event outside of Florida that isn't a WrestleMania in over 2 years since 2020.
That's crazy, right?
So for this crew, This is a huge event. Vengeance Day, February 4th. And again, as you say, coming to Charlotte, everyone here knows, again, the rich history of, the NWA, if you will, and of course the Flares. Obviously, I think it'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. So look, everybody's so amped up about it. They're excited. And this is also their opportunity. Again, you feel like this is finally getting back to, again, what NXT is and the whole reason they got into this line of work, which is to show their skill around the world, globally, if you will. And Charlotte's the first step in doing that.
The Hall of Famer Shawn Michaels joining us here on the Heaster Automotive Group Hotline alongside Chris Lea. I'm Dennis Cox. NXT Vengeance Day, February 4th at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte. Friday, tickets are on sale, so go online, purchase your tickets right now. I know pre-sale code's already out there, but if you want to attend this premium live event, get your tickets. They go on sale on Friday. Now, my question for you, Shawn, is how much interaction do you have with Triple H in regards to developing these young wrestlers to get to the main roster? Like you said, it's the developmental or college football of the WWE. How much interaction do you have with Triple H in regards to creative, and how much of this is just your own ideas and your own doing?
Well, so look, from a television standpoint, from a weekly television standpoint, what we do on NXT, that is more or less my ballpark.
Okay.
That's where I try to stay. But again, look, we obviously, he takes part obviously in the recruiting and all of that. I've been here with him for 5 years. Matt Bloom has an incredible system here at the Performance Center in Orlando. So we already have, sort of have our model in place, if you will, and everything that we do. And then it's, look, after that, it then becomes who it is we begin to see that we feel like is TV ready. And then we sort of go through a process from character development, names and how it is we see them being represented on television. So for the most part, he was very active in that clearly when he was running NXT, but as he stepped into running everything on the main roster, he puts that in my hands and in the hands of Matt Bloom here. And we obviously, meet and communicate on a regular basis. Matt and I do work with each other every day, doing everything we can to develop those superstars. But he's been, obviously Hunter always checks in and knows who the people are, obviously watches the show. He sees the people that appear to have promise in his sight and in ours as well. So I think we've never talked about it, but I think he obviously takes a mental note of who he sees and what he sees in them. And I'm sure he makes his crew aware of it as well. And then whenever those times comes that they feel like they're ready for a call up or they see a need that they might have, that's when they would give us a call.
Who are those next stars looking to maybe get that call up?
Well, look, obviously that's in the decision of him and the folks on the main roster. But look, I certainly have a lot of people that I think are certainly prepared and at different levels. But look, you've got JD McDonough. You certainly, I know everyone talks about Braun Breaker. You have got Tony D'Angelo, the Creed brothers, from some of our very new, young, fresh talent. You've got Grayson Waller. I think Carmelo Hayes, is a guy that can also be seen on the main roster. So we've got right now what I think are a nice variety of people that are ready in different aspects. Because clearly you never stop learning in this line of work. So they're going to go up there and continue to grow, just as the superstars in the past have done. Pete Dunne, Ridge Holland, a number of people that have, started in NXT have gone up there and evolved and gone on to great careers.
I'm going to add a name in there, Cameron Grimes. He's from North Carolina. He's done a really good job down there at NXT. I know that he'll be ready as well. I wanted to ask you this, though, because you also have a huge hand not only in helping to develop the show, but also in the training aspect, helping people out, character work, in-ring work, promo work, things like that. You're Shawn Michaels. You don't need us to tell you who you are. You know what you've done in this business, and you're one of the most recognizable names that's ever come across in this business. But how rewarding, how fulfilling is it for you to take what you've learned, the lessons that you've been able to learn from yourself and from others, and impart that on the next generation, and look on television and see your influence, whether in WWE or elsewhere?
Well, look, it really is. It's humbling, and I have to tell you, that's why I, and how I fell in love with this job. Look, I initially came here 5 years ago and agreed to work 6 hours a week. That was the extent of it.
Yeah.
But I did the environment, the culture here. I fell in love with it. And look, I'll say this business has been so good to me. And so this is my way of being able to give back. And look, Hunter is obviously my best friend in the whole wide world. And so you couple that with the company that's been good to me. And they're all the right reasons, for me to be a part of this and to want to pass it on to the next generation. So again, and we have just such wonderful, young men and women that come through here. Look, another guy from NC State, Hank Walker, what I mean, is a guy that's very young on our roster. And so the Creed brothers went to Duke, so it really is. There's so many different reasons, to love what I do. And those are just a couple of them. And look, to be able to, allow, whatever my past, whether it be good, bad, or otherwise, if I can pass that on and help people either not make mistakes or again, make the most of their opportunities. I want to do that because again, I've been very fortunate to find out how wonderful this line of work can be, and to be able to help other young men and women achieve their dreams. Again, it's a special thing to be able to do and something to be a part of.
Andre Chase from here as well. I want to ask you this. Every time you see whatever you want to call it, sweet chin music, super kick, thrust kick, every time you see one, do you feel like you should get paid for every single one that's thrown?
Royalties, get them.
Royalties for every time somebody. It's like a sample of music.
I'd be doing really okay. Well, look, I take it as a compliment. Again, I can remember when I first broke into the wrestling business. A lot of the old timers said, imitation is the serious, form of flattery, and so that's certainly the way that I take it. But again, look, I know that there were people that inspired me, and again, I don't know. Again, I've always been into the romance of this line of work, and look, so I'm fortunate, and I appreciate the fact that something that I did has had a positive effect on this business. Now, look, would I mind getting a nickel for every time one of those things happens? Of course I would, but I don't think that's realistic. So I'll just be flattered from a distance.
Yeah, even a penny, you'd still be rolling it. You'd still be rolling it in right there.
Doing okay, wouldn't I?
Yeah, very, very well. Shawn Michaels from WWE, the Hall of Famer. NXT Vengeance Day, February 4th. Tickets go on sale Friday. Tickets go on sale Friday the 16th. Spectrum Center again, February 4th. So it's right around the corner. Get your tickets now. Get to Charlotte.
Good Christmas present for somebody.
Exactly. Great Christmas present for somebody. Now, you may not know this. Chris is actually a former professional wrestler, but you broke his heart when he was 5 years old when you turned on Marty Jannetty. You broke his heart, and it took him until he was an adult to forgive you. I just wanted to let you know that this man here.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but now he's bringing it up. He's embarrassing me.
But when you hugged it out with Bret Hart in the ring, I think is when he actually forgave you.
Yeah, no. So yeah, true story. As I grew up as a wrestling fan, and I was a huge fan of the Rockers, and I just remember being 5, like seeing that and you kicking him, and it literally broke my heart. So like. You were the heartbreak kid for me, for sure.
Literally. I got to tell you, it's something where I've had to make peace with the fact that there have been a couple things I've done, 2 big ones in my career where I've actually traumatized a generation. Yeah, that's the barbershop in Montreal. And again, to everyone, all these years later, I say, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I swear it's in my job description.
It's okay. All is forgiven.
I get it now, of course. Yeah.
All is forgiven. My final question for you, Shawn, why is it important for you to give back to the wrestling industry?
That's a simple one. Because I've lived long enough on this earth to see how much of a blessed life I've had. Honestly, again, and that's that's why I always get emotional when somebody asks me that kind of question, because again, this job has been so good to me. This business, I don't know. I always tell you again. It's like I've said in my documentaries. I don't know, the same business that almost killed me, almost saved me. And so, again, I don't know. It's the romance. We have such a blessed life, my family and I, and it's because of of this line of work. And I loved doing it when I was out there. And I want this next generation to love it as much as I did, and to want to go out there and perform for the people as much as I loved doing it. And so being able to pass that on to people, I think the business will be better for it if people, I don't know, I guess if they'll do it with the same heart that I did, because I know that heart that I had for it, for that performance inside the ring. So I get, that's the reason why, again, because I think it's the least I can do.
My quick final question. Ric Flair had his last match. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat recently had his final match. Do you see yourself at any point having that one final match, or are you completely done right now?
Yeah, I've had that final match.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I mean, these guys coming back at the age of 70. I didn't know if you still had maybe like a couple more once a decade or something.
No. Yeah, no. Father Time waits on no man. I'm good, and I'm unbelievably happy with my career, and it is now time to watch the next generation flourish.
All right. Well, you're going to see that, and you can see that generation flourish if you're listening to us in Charlotte, North Carolina, Spectrum Center. February 4th is going to be a big-time event, Vengeance Day at the Spectrum Center. First premium live event in a couple years outside of Florida, so we're blessed that it's going to be here in North Carolina, and we're being joined by the legend, the Heartbreak Kid, HBK himself. Thank you so much, Shawn Michaels, for joining us today.
Thank you all very much for having me. We appreciate the help.
All right, we want to thank our friends over at the WWE and NXT for allowing the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, to spend a few minutes of his day with us at Culture State. Very fun interview. Glad I had a chance to speak with, I don't want to say a childhood hero because I didn't really like him as a child, but somebody that is one of the best in pro wrestling. And I would say he is a hero at this point because, especially being a smaller guy and doing what he did and taking on those giants and becoming a man of his own and, paving the way. I mean, you see so many of his clones in if you watch pro wrestling right now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to call out any names, Young Bucks, but you have a lot of guys who are basically his clones right now.
Yeah.
That are wrestling and literally trying to be HBK wannabes out there, which is, it's cool. Like, if you have influence, if you're good at what you do, you're gonna have people out there try to copy what you do. We know a little something about that, don't we? Let's talk about this. The Celebration Bowl.
Yes.
North Carolina Central went to ATLA NTAGA and kicked some you know what I'm trying to say.
Double dollar signs.
They went against the undefeated Jackson State Tigers. Literally across the nation, everybody was just waiting to crown Jackson State the Celebration Bowl champions, Black College National champions. It was like, hey, they're going to have a perfect undefeated season. Deion Sanders going to go 13-0 before he leaves and goes to take his job over at Colorado. Everything's going to be good. We're just going to watch Shedeur Sanders finally do his thing on the national stage, which he did do his thing. He had a pretty good game. But North Carolina Central had something to say about that. They spoiled the party and beat them 41-34 in overtime. And honestly, they really shouldn't have even let them get to overtime. Like, that was just a lapse defensively for NC Central to even let the game even get to overtime. Because, from the very beginning, from the opening kickoff, they kicked, Jackson State in the teeth, and they didn't let up whatsoever. Really good game by Trey Oliver and his kids.
Yeah, I was thoroughly impressed. They jumped on them early, did NC Central, and it was back and forth. There was moments where they had trailed a little bit, and it was a back and forth game, and it literally came down to the final play in regulation, as well as obviously the final play in overtime. I'll admit, Chris, I will say, where Deion made his mistake?
What do you have
where
to say?
Deion, I think, made a mistake.
What is that?
At the end of regulation, when they got the touchdown, they were down 1. You have the ball. You can win the game with one play. You can win the game. The ball is in your hands. You can win the game. I have been on the bandwagon of, look, you can win the game on this play. Go for it. Don't kick the PAT and go into overtime because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen in overtime. Didn't pay off. I've always been in the mindset, if you have the chance to win the game on that one play, go for it. I thought he should have gone for 2 there at the end of regulation. He didn't. It's fine. Whatever. But nevertheless, congrats to Trey Oliver and those guys. I'm on team go for it. For example, like when Brian Kelly did it against Alabama for LSU earlier this year, in overtime. Because here's the thing. Deion would have been faced with the same situation. Because remember, on 3rd down, tight end for Jackson State, dropped the ball. Dropped the ball in the end zone. You still would have been faced with the same situation. Oh, do I kick an extra point to force a second overtime? Or can I win the game right now? I'm team go win the game.
Okay. I don't think the game would have come down to that one play. I mean, yeah, he could have done that. And maybe that's what would have happened. But at the same time.
But Jackson State had a chance to win the game at the very end of regulation.
At the same time, NC Central controlled that line of scrimmage.
Sure.
They ran the ball. I mean, oh my God, they racked up almost 300 yards on the ground on Jackson State and had the ball for 38 of the 60 minutes. So I don't know if it's fair. I mean, you can't say that that's where Deion went wrong because, the rest of it was exposed that they didn't really have a running game. They couldn't run it on NC Central.
True.
And honestly, if it really wasn't for the fact that NC Central's DBs had a pretty hard time outside of Khalil Baker. Khalil Baker made plays, but outside of him, their DBs didn't really make a lot of plays. That's what kept Jackson State in it because Shedeur Sanders could air it out, and he had receivers. Travis Hunter, by the way, my God, my man was playing both ways. He was playing DB, and he was going on the other side and playing offense and catching touchdowns.
Yeah.
Just an amazing talent. And honestly, if it weren't for those two guys, Jackson State would have gotten blown out of the water. Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter stopped them from getting blown out of the water.
Travis Hunter showed why he was the #1 recruit in the country. He was committed to Florida State.
Yes.
He was committed to Florida State as the #1 recruit in the country. Deion flipped him over to Jackson State. Now he's in the transfer portal, probably going to Colorado.
But that isn't guaranteed, though, because, who knows? Colorado's still building their program right now because of Deion Sanders. So they may not have the money available. There's other places that has the money available. So Travis Hunter could get a nice 7-figure deal to go elsewhere. But here's something else that I want to bring up that now Deion Sanders is going to have to take a look at. This is his 2nd year in a row losing in the Celebration Bowl.
Yeah.
And this is probably...
Because you should have gone for it, Chris. I'm telling you. Should have gone for 2.
Probably one of the worst losses for him because he was 12-0. And so now when you get to Colorado, are you going to be the team that's going to go through the regular season, win all these games, and then when it comes down to the big moments, the big game, are you going to choke at the end? Are you going to be able to win the big one? You only have a sample size of 2 games, 2 Celebration Bowls, but that does show you something, though. What's going to happen with that? So that's something I'll be looking out for when it comes down to Deion Sanders when he gets to Colorado. Are they going to be able to win the big game? And nothing is bigger than their first game of the season when they play against Matt Rule and the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
At the end of the day, it's a big game for both guys. Look, I've seen that floating around. I have. I'm sorry, how many coaches have gone to the Celebration Bowl? Not many, right? How many coaches actually make it to conference championship games? Very, very few. Getting there is an accomplishment.
It is.
Getting there is an accomplishment.
I'm not taking anything away from it.
Oh, yeah. A lot. But I've seen that, Deion's proven he can't win the big game. I've seen that.
But you also don't want to be the Buffalo Bills, though, of the early 1990s.
True.
Because you can make it there. Yeah, great. Good job, Bills. You made it there 4 times.
Yeah.
But you lost 4 times, and nobody remembers your team.
Oh, no, we all remember their team.
I mean, you remember the team, but as far as one of the greats, when you look back at the 90s and say the great teams of the 90s, there's a reason why you pick other teams before the Bills, because the Bills didn't win. If you guys can follow us on social media at Chris Lea TV, at The Fan Rookie, at Culture State Pod, we've got you taken care of. Hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. We'll see you next week before the new year.
Exactly.
So,
Chris, I think next week we're going to have to recap some of the highlights of 2022.
We'll do that.
Chris Lea and Dennis Cox about to dig in the crates, so turn it up, cause it's time for the culture state. Yeah.